Hey guys, Crypto Sunday. Missed last week, and there's been quite a bit happening. Down slightly this week, about 3%. Nothing sort of too much. The percentages here are from the last video rather than last week. I thought it'd be sort of nicer to see that 2 week gap. And yeah, we got sort of a reasonable amount happening. Looking at the coin shares report, it was sort of fairly small, 288 million in outflow. So again, sort of looking at these last three bars compared to the big swings we have been having, it's fairly small. Looking by coin, it's mainly Bitcoin, of course. Not a lot of Ethereum. 36 million outflow for Ethereum, 32 million for the multi-asset, and that's obviously much smaller and is normally much smaller inflows. Still small inflow for XRP and Solana. 5.5 million into short Bitcoin. People still wanting to short, of course. And then yeah, fairly small numbers. 1.2 million into Chainlink isn't too bad. 17 million outflow from other coins. That's the largest outflow that I've seen. That's normally inflow, to be fair, I suppose, since similar to XRP and Solana, these are newer products, and there isn't that sort of legacy of people wanting to sell. But it's 622 million in assets, so fair amount of people, I guess, want to get out. Looking by country, sort of nothing really to see there. You've had sort of inflows across the rest of the world, really. 346 million out of US, which is sort of obviously more than the total of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So other countries have been seeing a bit of inflow. Canada, Germany, Switzerland, sort of all in double figures. But overall, yeah, this is nothing huge as the chart shows. Looking at this week, we got a fairly mixed bag. No bank holidays this week. So yeah, Monday and Friday both negative days. Friday only a very small outflow from BlackRock, and actually inflows from a couple of the others. Monday was slightly more of an outflow day, but nothing huge. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were all inflow days, actually all larger than those two outflow days combined even. So yeah, a couple of 250s and a 500 million. That's pretty good. Still with some strange 100 million into the old grayscale. So yeah, some trading going on, you would think. But yeah, not too bad a week. Ethereum didn't do quite as well. Similar pattern. Monday and Friday, both outflow days. Wednesday was the sort of big inflow day, and Tuesday and Thursday were inflow days, but only single figures. So not bigger than Monday and Friday, and still with the strange Wednesday 33 million into the old grayscale at 2.5%, not 1.5% like Bitcoin one is. So yeah, I wouldn't really take all that much from this. You got the Fidelity and BlackRock ones sort of with a little bit of inflow, and it's an inflow week. So first positive week from coming off the back of the last three being negative. And Solana had, again, pretty good, 5 days consistently of inflows. We've not seen an outflow day for quite a while. There has been sort of one or two. And again with Wednesday, something was going on Wednesday. Didn't really see anything too strong that would have caused that. But 29 million went into the Bitwise ETF. So I think that's the largest inflow day they've seen. 30 overall, and yeah, some okay numbers. 8 million, nothing much in double figures, but fairly consistent. Just looking at strategy and treasury companies, it was very quiet. 592 Bitcoin for strategy, $40 million. Hasn't really, that won't adjust their average, 76,000, adding not even 1%, not even 0.1% actually to their total. So, yeah, nothing much there. I don't think they're under their MNAV, but I don't think it's particularly accretive for them to be selling a huge amount of common stock to buy at the moment. Some of the other companies are still this small DDC Enterprise, 50 Bitcoin, but nothing sort of all that much. They're doing conferences, strategy conference, it looks like. Yeah, Strategy World 2026. How you can have a whole conference about them is beyond me, but they have a huge cult following. I don't think there was too much else. Lots of AI pictures and, things yielding yield-based products on strategy from other people, not just strategy themselves. And yeah, it looks like they increased the dividend rate by 25 basis points on the STRC. That just means more selling of MicroStrategy shares as far as I can see. So big sort of macro news of the weekend is US and Israel sort of mounting a major strike on Iran. Looks like since this article was launched that they have actually killed the supreme leader, I think they call him, of Iran. State media has confirmed that, and yeah, we had some sort of weekend action looking at. There's a Pax Gold, so gold itself doesn't really trade over the weekend at all, other than some sort of indicative markets. But you have things like Pax Gold trading over the weekend, so that shot up on the news of the attacks, basically, right up to sort of 5,500, almost a new all-time high, I think, and then came back down again. And sort of as you've got the news of his death, it has sort of stabilised in 1 or 2% above previous price. So yeah, Bitcoin sort of didn't do quite as well. Sort of dropped on the news of the attacks, while gold went up and has since recovered most of that, and I think is slightly above previous price. So yeah, that's good news, I suppose. In the end, it's just not the reaction that people sort of expected from it. Gold goes up, Bitcoin goes down, and even if they both end up afterwards, that's not really correlated as such. We've still got plenty of bearish people, so people Googling Bitcoin to zero has spiked to a new all-time high, it's looking like. Peaking last August, is now hit a record high. So people are thinking, I don't know, maybe quantum risk, that it could be going to zero. Yeah, this is on a multi-year basis. Can't quite see that if I zoom in a little bit. Yes, 2024, 23, 22. And in case you don't know, these Google searches are sort of, there's always 100 on the search. So whatever the high is for the time period you're looking at will be 100, and then everything else that is lower is sort of relative to that 100, basically. So before this high, this period, mid 2025, would have shown 100, and everything else would have been a little bit lower than that. And now that we've had a new high, that previous high drops down to sort of 80%, if you like, of the new high. So there's always 100, and this isn't like 100 of something. Basically, it's 100%. And we got a Masari report on Solana. Admittedly, this was February the 18th. Would have covered this last week, but yeah, didn't have the video. But it's a little bit old news now. We're sort of, just come into March, and this is for Q4 ending December, but still good to look at the numbers. We've seen obviously market cap declining. Real economic value is down, admittedly quite a lot. I would say sort of some of that is down to prices being down, but it is also down a lot more than the market is down. So yeah, and it's been consistently down since Q4 last year, almost 90%. Yeah, 89% year-on-year change. So that's not great at all. Average daily fee payers. So this is sort of seen as a better metric than daily active users. Users could be just logging in and checking their wallet, for example. That's not really an active user. That's just a non-active user, if you like. So people who log in and do something basically and pay a small fee for it is down 20% from last quarter, and again is consistently down every quarter since Q4 last year, 56% down from then. Obviously, still needs kind of a new narrative really to pick up, whether that be sort of tokenized assets or stock trading finally coming on to sort of crypto rails. We don't really know, but would be nice to see something. Active validators is down as well. That's been there's been sort of various reasons for that, shutting off old legacy validators, some of them from FTX and that sort of thing. So that's kind of expected, but again, down 4 quarters in a row. Chain GDP, that's partly down from prices dropping, similar with DeFi TVL. And DEX volume, actually the same as last quarter, up from 3.4 billion in Q2 and up 3% year on year. So that's sort of staying relatively the same, even with prices down. So could see that as positive. They don't do DEX volume sort of in Solana terms, if you like, but obviously it's multiple coins being traded on these exchanges as well. And stablecoin market cap, that is up 5.3% from last quarter and 191% up from this time last year. So Solana, obviously not the primary stablecoin platform, but they all are rising, it seems, over time. Their little ecosystem chart as well. There's mostly the same sort of figures, but you have total real world asset value on Solana, 1.1 billion now, 58% up from last quarter. Sort of obviously this time last year it was very, very small. So 535% up from this time last year, but I think we'd probably look on sequential quarters. So yeah, that's consistently growing, 4 quarters up in a row, and very nice. Liquid staking rate, I'm not sure whether this is down to the drop in price, but it's now 17.6% to stake. So that's quite high. Obviously wish that I'd never got involved in NFTs and had just staked all of my Solana. Would have had, don't know, probably 1,000 now, and I'd bought 800. So yeah, lesson learned. NFT volume, speaking of NFTs, down to 663,000 from 2.7 million this time last year. So 75% down. Not a lot of love for NFTs at the moment. Projects funded sort of is all over the place a little bit. It's 14 in Q2 last year, 14 this quarter, but it is down year on year and from last quarter. And the actual users, so non-vote transactions, this is sort of similar to average daily fee payers, I suppose. It'll follow that. We saw 2.2 million daily fee payers, but I suppose that is, you could get some less people doing more transactions in theory. So yeah, non-voting transactions is down 21%, kind of similar to daily fee payers. Daily signers, so this is people just logging into wallets as well. There's like another 700,000 people who are using it but not paying a fee, as far as I can see there. And voting transactions are sort of much higher than non-vote, of course. You can see from transaction fees that yeah, people really are not using it as much. The median transaction fee in Sol terms down 7.8%, down 35% year on year. So I take it to mean people aren't using it as much. Not quite as much demand for meme coins and things, and the average isn't being pushed up, basically. You can see the average US dollar fees down 85% from this time last year. Yeah, that was sort of meme coin mania and then Trump coin in Q1. So, yeah, not surprised that it's down from there. But would be nice to see something kick that off. Something a bit more real than meme coins, of course. So yeah, you can go through the rest of this report if you like. If you're keen on Solana, there's some good stuff in here. Still people building on it, and certainly has potential, but not really a big holding for me if I sort of were to realize all of my NFTs and things. So yeah, I don't focus as much as I used to on it, to be honest. Just looking at Bitcoin hash rate, we have got quite the pickup in hash rate over sort of the past month and the past week, sort of kind of consistently above 1 zeta hash, which I was kind of hoping we weren't going to be, and we were going to, a lot of these miners switching to HPC sort of AI stuff. I thought we could maybe have a sustained period under 1 zeta hash, and it'd be more profitable for people like Hive, but yeah, it seems not. Looking at the difficulty, we know, well, we're at 144. There's another adjustment on Friday, I believe. And at the moment, it's being scheduled for Thursday now, because we're at 9.85 minutes block time, so an increase to 146. So we just had a substantial increase back up from the 125 we were at, and it's now scheduled to go up again. So this sort of period of consistent down moves does seem to be coming to an end, and we're not that far off. If we get to 146, not all that far from the peak. So yeah, it was nice while it lasted, maybe, but hopefully we're not going to sort of go into this significant ramp up that we were before. I would guess this is maybe countries, state governments mining coming online in place of public miners sort of switching to AI, which is the worry, of course, because a lot of them will consider the electricity as free, or maybe it is free surplus electricity. Just thought it was worth highlighting some of the individual M2 charts. Obviously, I look at global liquidity, and that is global. While it may be rising, it's not rising in all countries evenly. So you can sort of see the US total M2 sort of absolutely rocketed up in COVID times, of course, and then came back down sort of during the tightening period, 2022 and 2023, and sort of has been rising again, but has only just risen above the April, May 2022 peak. So yeah, it's not exactly, US aren't exactly flooding the market with liquidity. They have their large deficit, of course, which they will have to keep funding, and that sort of increases things over time. That will be, why it's gone up since then, I would have thought. But if you compare it to, or you can look at sort of individual things like the bank balance sheets, on their own, they have been increasing all the way through 2022, so they never really went down as the total money supply did. That's potentially good news. And the central bank balance sheet, so this isn't the same as USM2, this is just what the Federal Reserve hold. That has been going down consistently. As we know, they've been doing quantitative tightening, you could call it. Some people are just calling it balance sheet roll-off, where they just don't renew debt. Proper tightening would be selling bonds into the open market. And that does seem to have bottomed out. We know they're sort of buying about 40 billion a month worth of bonds now, and yeah, potentially starts to increase again, if only slightly. And comparing that to some of the others, so this is the euro area, sort of total EU money supply looks kind of similar to the US. Sort of peaked in 2022, came down again, and has been going up. Although it's accelerating at quite a pace the last few months. Sort of, would this be 100 billion euros? Yeah, we're at sort of million on the side of here and million up there. So that's 16 trillion euros. So it's increasing 100 billion euros per month, which is quite a bit. But looking at China, this is on the 10-year, 5-year looks almost exactly the same. So they never really sort of peaked in 2022 as the others did, and stopped. They've just been consistently going up. And obviously, China have capital controls and sort of restrictions on what you can buy. It's really Chinese stocks, which they don't seem to be all that happy with. Gold, which is why I would say gold is doing particularly well. You've got the public buying it and the central bank buying it. And they struggle to put money into Bitcoin. Government doesn't seem all that happy with it, so you get some money go into sort of Hong Kong and buy through there, and people sort of buy it on grey market, black market type areas, but there isn't that sort of easy flood into Bitcoin as a store of wealth in China. So you can kind of see why gold has potentially outperformed. And looking at Japan, Japan is sort of somewhat a mix of the two, really. Sort of rocketed up in COVID times, but never really sort of peaked. Has just been consistently going up. And I don't know whether there's still the same enthusiasm for Bitcoin in Japan as there maybe once was, but yeah, they'll be buying gold as well, I expect. So yeah, it's just interesting to see the difference in countries, and potentially a reason why, looking at the global liquidity chart, it consistently is going up, and Bitcoin's sort of not really following it as much anymore. I think I would still call it a bit crazy to say the correlation has completely broken down. Over the last sort of 6 months to a year, maybe you've had these crocodile jaws open up. It's the widest divergence sort of in the past 5 or 6 years, certainly. But it was fairly well correlated for quite a while. Yeah, looking on the weekly, I do tend to sort of cut off the beginning of this. Starts at sort of late 2011, but it was a absolutely tiny market there. You can't expect it to sort of follow global liquidity. It was doing its own thing, and you had massive inflation, sort of 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes being released. It was sort of practically worthless, so people were selling it. And so yeah, I do sort of tend to just cut a little bit of that off, and if you sort of drag this onto global liquidity, there's a reasonable fit still. Even at the beginning, you had the big spike in 2013, was somewhat sort of manipulation back then. There was bots sort of driving it up, it seems, from looking back in history. 2017, you had the crazy blow off peak, but it did coincide with quite a peak in global liquidity. Bitcoin sort of outperformed, you could say. Came down again and sort of went back up into the 2021 peak. Came down again, bottomed pretty much at the global liquidity bottom, and obviously we've now come to today with a very large divergence. But again, as I keep saying, to call this a completely broken correlation, I wouldn't say so. It's just a large divergence that that could come back at some point. Whether that means global liquidity peaks. This is what Michael Howell, sort of obviously the person a lot of people go to talk about global liquidity. He does his own charts, and yeah, he is, or not really public on his Substack, that is. And he's been saying global liquidity has peaked, which, this chart would suggest it hasn't. I know he's at some points been just saying the rate of change has peaked, so the actual total number would keep going up, but if it's going up at a slower rate, then the rate of change peaks, and that's seeing as a sort of a rounding top. So you sometimes want to actually sell stuff when the rate of change starts dropping and it starts sort of doing that slow curved top, even if it is still going up, because people price in the future basically. But if anything, I would say this has been getting steeper the last few months. Whether this is China, we've seen Europe sort of increasing their balance sheet. So yeah, peaking, I'm not quite so sure. And then portfolio wise, so coins, call this coins for the 2 weeks rather than coins for the week. We've got a divergence. Bitcoin down 2.7%, Ethereum up 2%, Solana flat, Chainlink up 2.8%. Helium has been sort of all over the place, pretty solid metrics from them. Price has sort of done okay. Radium slightly down, Gito slightly up, Metaplex up 8%, and Honey just appalling, nearly under £100 now, down 26% in the last 2 weeks. So crazy stuff. Got Metaplex is only 200 quid now, but I still think not that much point in sort of selling these off. I'm not sure what I would put it into. And they could potentially go back up with a decent bull market, and Solana sort of getting some love for other reasons. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.